What is up, party people? Welcome back to my channel. I'm Jamila. This is JemilaBeReadin, because I do be reading, and today we're going to be talking about the 24 books that I want to read in 2024. I've been seeing a lot of people posting their videos, posting on Instagram and TikTok, and I was feeling a little bit of FOMO, so I wanted to do my own video about 24 books that I wanted to read this year. Now, you know, me and TBRs, we're not always on the same page, but I do want to be very intentional with my reading this year and really try to tackle some books on my shelves that have been sitting there for a long time. So I pulled 24 books. Well, technically there's a little bit more than that, but we'll get to it when we get to it. I picked books all from my physical TBR that have been sitting there for a while, that I've been meaning to get to for a while, and that I'm excited to read. So let's just get into it. I'll start off with one that's actually 2 books combined, but I'm counting it as one, and that is Winterkeep and Sea Sparrow by Kristen Cashore, which are books 4 and 5 in the Graceling Realm series. I feel like if you've been following me for a while, you'll know how much I love the original 3 books of this series, and I've just been both excited and terrified about these new entries to the series. I feel like anytime there's a new book in a series that's been out for a long time and there's been a long gap, you never know what to expect. So that's kind of how I've been feeling, but I really just want to go ahead and get to it, especially because I talk about this series all the time and I still haven't read the last 2 books. So I'm counting it as like one because it's a part of the same series and I want to read both of them. I don't have Sea Sparrow on my shelves yet, but I'm going to purchase it soon. I've been waiting for the paperback version to come out. So next I have a nonfiction, and I really need to get back in my nonfiction bag this year. Last year, when I was putting together all of my like end of the year videos on TikTok where I talk about my favorites by genre, I usually have a nonfiction section, and I didn't last year. I did read some nonfiction. None of them were like amazing, so they didn't make it onto like my best of series, but I think that just goes to show I wasn't reading enough, and I wasn't picking, like being intentional with what nonfiction books I was picking up. So anyways, I've had this on my shelves for a while. I have been following Mariam Kaba on Twitter for a long time, and I had these books on my shelves, and I didn't make the connection that this was like the same person that I had been following on Twitter this whole time. This is We Do This Till We Free Us: Abolitionist Organizing and Transforming Justice. I want to read this book. I don't know what else to say. What if social transformation and liberation are not about waiting for someone else to come along and save us? What if ordinary people have the power to collectively free ourselves? In this timely collection of essays and interviews, Mariam Kaba reflects on the deep work of abolition and transformative political struggle. I think it's just like, okay, this stuff is always timely. When is it not timely, honestly, in this world that we're living in? But I think it's particularly timely with what's going on in Palestine, but also like in my own personal work, since I am an immigration lawyer and I work particularly in a nonprofit that's active in organizing organizing for the abolition of immigration detention centers. So I just think this would be good for me all around in my personal life and in my work life. So another nonfiction. This one's kind of a doozy, guys. Okay, it's The Wretched of the Earth by Frantz Fanon. I attempted to read this book. As you can see here, I started reading it. I made it 12 pages in. This book is dense as hell, y'all. Like, I started reading this, I want to say it was either like early 2022 or sometime in 2021. I was in this like WhatsApp group with some nonfiction TikTokers started namely by Nathan from Schizophrenic Reads. And he and Kafia, another nonfiction TikToker who's great, suggested this, and I was like, yeah, let's do it. Bro, I was in the middle of law school, and I was like, I couldn't do it. It's dense, but I know I have the brain power. I just have to like spend a lot of time on it. So I think this is probably something that I'm gonna read like slowly throughout probably a couple of months, really take my time with it, annotate it, make some notes and stuff like that. But again, another book that I feel like is particularly timely, but when is it not? You know, like this was written, when was this written? In the 60s? Like, the struggle is never ending. So, all right, switching gears a little bit, we have horror. I'm really trying to be a horror girly this year, and actually I just read a book for a video that will be, I don't know if I'm going to be posting that one before or after this. It's probably going to be after this video. But anyways, it kind of freaks me out a little bit, I'm not going to lie. So now I'm like, do I want to be a horror girly? I do. I really do. I just have to stop being a scaredy cat. But anyways, I have My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. And I've read The Only Good Indians by him a couple years ago now. And I enjoyed that. And I've heard really good things about this. I have the second book as well. I know the third book is coming out this year. So I'd really like to at least get to this first book and enter my horror girly era. I don't know. This one is, I think, more slasher related, and I'm not like the biggest slasher person, but we'll see how this one goes. Then we have Open Water by Caleb Azuma Nelson. This is another one that I actually started. I got it from the library. This is also a couple years ago. In 2022, I remember because I was reading some of it while I was working at the my law school's bookstore. I was just sitting there reading instead of doing my readings for class. But anyways, I got it from the library and I just didn't read it fast enough and I had to return it or else I was gonna get overdue fees. Luckily, they got rid of that recently, but not at that time. So I read about like, I want to say like a third of this. It's not very long, as you can see. And I was really enjoying it. Like, it has such beautiful writing. It's such an interesting like beautiful love story. So I really want to get back into this. I ended up like buying my own copy and I really need to read it this year. I know he has another book that came out last year and I've been hearing good things about that one too. So okay, this is another one where I kind of cheated. It's only one book. It's not like two books in one, but I just wrote down like on my list a Kiese Laymon book because I have two of them. This is an author that I've just heard so many good things about that I just need to read. So I have two books by him. One is Long Division, which is fiction, and then I have Heavy, which is a memoir. And I've heard such good things about both of these books. Honestly, if I could read both, that would be great, but I would like to read at least one of these. I do have two of the same author here, but I'm counting each as its own separate book just because I want to read both of these. And that's from Akwaeke Emezi. First is Freshwater. This is the last of their adult literary fiction books that I've yet to read, and I've just been putting this one off because I feel like I'm gonna love it. I've loved all of their works, but I just feel like this one's going to like really impact me or something. You know that feeling when you kind of put off reading a book that you know you're just gonna love and it's gonna be kind of like earth-shattering, and that's why you just haven't read anything by them or read the book that you've been putting off. That's how I feel about Freshwater. I also want to read Bitter, which is the prequel to Pet, which I read last year and really enjoyed. I will give a brief interlude and say that I don't have a Toni Morrison on here, but that's like definitely I'm going to be reading a Toni Morrison. I just didn't include it because I already have like some video plans that include Toni Morrison books, so I'm not including it in this video, but just know I'm finally getting to Toni Morrison this year, which I discussed in my reading goals video. Next book that we have here is Mother of Strangers by Suad Amory. This is a book by a Palestinian author that is set in Jaffa from 1947 to 1951, so like in the middle of the Nakba. And it's following two teenagers. It's based on a true story as well. And I've had this book actually sitting on my shelves for a couple of years. I love this cover a lot. I think it's very beautiful, and you know, obviously just trying to read more books by Palestinian authors, and I feel like I'm gonna really like it. So next, I really want to pick up a book by Helen Oyeyemi because I've been hearing about this author for a while, and I picked up this book when I was at the coast one day. I don't really remember when, but I was at a coastal bookstore and I picked it up and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna finally read this book by this author. So this is Pieces. This one sounds really trippy and I'm curious to see how it's gonna go. I feel like every time I look up one of her books, it has such mixed reviews, so that just makes me even more curious to pick up one of her books. I only have one more book left to read to complete River Solomon's backlist, and I'd really love to do that. So I have An Unkindness of Ghosts, which I believe was their debut. I've read Sorrowland and the Deep now. I just have this, and I've heard really good things about it. I know it is pretty heavy in terms of themes. It's also like set in space, it seems like, so I'm excited. And then, I mean, I probably should have included both books in this series as one again, so I'm just gonna say that, but I have it. I'm just not gonna go grab it. But this is The Broken Kingdom by N.K. Jemisin, which is book 2 in the Inheritance trilogy. I just need to complete this series this year. I do. So I have that. I wish her covers had better covers. I wish her books had better covers. The City Duologies is the best one, I think. I like those. But all of the other ones, the Broken Earth trilogy in particular, they're fugly. I'm sorry to say it. I love them so much, but the covers suck. And I'm just constantly waiting for the day that one of these damn book boxes are going to announce a special edition version of that series. And then they just never do. They never do. So I'm like, really? Triple Hugo award-winning N.K. Jemisin? Y'all can't do any special editions? You hate to see it. You do. Parable of the Talents by Octavia E. Butler. I read Parable of the Sower last year. Y'all know it was one of my favorites of the year. And I need to complete the duology. I know that this one's like even more harrowing and hard-hitting than the first one. So we'll see how that goes. But Octavia Butler, she's a genius. So what can I say? I've heard so many good things about Ray Bear by Jordan Ifueko. So much. And I actually own both books in the duology, even though I haven't read the first one. I need to read it this year. Like, I heard that this is so good from a lot of different people who like, even people who don't really read YA anymore. So that's what makes me really excited. I just feel like it's gonna be so good and I need to read it. Another one where I have one author and I want to read at least one book from him, and that's Victor LaValle. I have The Changeling and Lone Women, both of which are horror. Again, trying to be a horror girly. This one is about like changelings. This one is like a historical horror set in like, I don't know, the Old West, the Old Wild West in 1950 Montana. Yeah, some interesting things happening. I've heard good things, in particular about Lone Women. I don't think I've actually heard that many people talking about The Changeling, but this one just got an Apple TV adaptation with Lakeith Stanfield. So, yeah. Then kind of a random one, but this is Migrations by Charlotte McConaughey. This one I think is kind of like lit fic dystopian a la Station 11 or like Severance or something like that. One of my coworkers recently said that they really liked this book, and I was like, oh wait, I have that on my shelves, and I feel like I'll like it. I usually like kind of lit ficky dystopians, so this one I think is like following like last group of birds in the Arctic or something like that. So we have Disorientation by Elaine C. Chu. This one I picked up mainly because I find the cover to be so incredibly striking. Isn't this such a cool cover? This one I believe is academia satire. It says, a Taiwanese American woman's coming of consciousness ignites eye-opening revelations and chaos on a college campus in this outrageously hilarious and startlingly tender debut novel. And that just sounds right up my alley. A book that literally haunts me, that I haven't read yet, is Transcendent Kingdom by Ya Jia. How many times have I talked about, like, this is the year that I'm going to read it? Since 2020. Since 2020 I said that. It's 2024 now. Isn't that tragic? It needs to be the year. It does. I can't live like this any longer. I really can't. I can't. Then we have Afterlives by Abdulrazak Gurnah. This is a Nobel Prize winner, okay? So my book club, Pros Before Bros, that I'm a part of here in Portland, is doing a book retreat to Tanzania. which is so cool. I don't think I'm going, which is so sad. There's been talks about doing like an Africa book retreat for a while, but my 2024, especially the latter half, is really up in the air in terms of where I will be living and where I will be working. I don't know what's going on because my fellowship ends in September, and the retreat is happening in September. So I just don't know what's going on, and I need to save money to like buy a car and stuff. So anyways, you don't need to know about my life woes. But this author is Tanzanian, and I think this is going to be like the group book that is being read for that trip. So I want to participate, even though I'm probably not going to go on this trip. I've also just heard really good things about this author and this book. I mean, I want to see what a Nobel Prize winner in literature, what kind of book that is, you know? Another cheating situation where I have one author and I want to read at least one of their books, and that's Nnedi Okorafor. I haven't read a book by her in a while, I realized. I think actually the last book I read by her was Remote Control in 2022. And it's just been a while since I picked up a Nnedi Okorafor. So I have Noor, which I believe came out last year. Maybe. That's a lie. This came out in 2021. Clearly my time it doesn't even exist to me. Anyways, Noor. I also have Lagoon, which is one of her earlier works. But I think this cover is like really cool. And it's also blurbed by Ursula K. Le Guin. So anyways, I like Nnedi Okorafor. Binti is one of my favorites. I want to say book, but it's a trilogy of novellas. But cut like together, it like is book length. But anyways, I loved Binti. I really enjoyed Remote Control and Who Fears Death. So I need to pick up another Nnedi Okorafor this year. I really want to read He Who Drowns the World by Shelley Parker Chan, which is the second and final book in the She Who Became the Sun duology. I read that book last year, one of my favorites. I loved it, and I don't want to wait too long to read this one. I really need to be better about completing series, so this is gonna get done. We just have 3 more books left. I have A Snake Falls to Earth by Darcy Little Badger, Alatue. Love that book by the same author. I've had this on my shelves since it came out in like 2021, and I just haven't read it yet, and I want to. This is also very heavy. It's like quite a dense, like physically dense book, not like reading dense. I've also realized that I am almost done with Elizabeth Acevedo's backlist. I have read everything else by her except for her debut, which is The Poet X, which is the one I've heard the most about, honestly. So I really need to get to this one. It's been a while since I've read a book in verse, so we'll see how that goes. I'll probably listen to the audiobook. And finally, I have Free Food for Millionaires by Min Jin Lee, which is the same author as Pachinko. Absolutely love that book. Really want to check out her other works. I think it might just be these 2 books. Yeah, I think she only has these 2 books. I wonder if she's gonna write anything else. I mean, I'm sure she's working on something, but yeah, this one is quite thick. I mean, so is Pachinko, but I trust Min Jin Lee. She wrote Pachinko so well and so like captivating. I feel like the best types of like historical or literary fiction books are ones where it's still like really engaging and almost feels like a page turner, despite the fact that it's not the type of story that is page turnery or it's still like technically very slow, but you're just so captivated by the characters and want to know what's going to happen to them that you just keep reading it. And I feel like she's really good at that, so I'm excited for this one. That's everything. Y'all comment down below, let me know what books you want to read in 2024. You can let me know your 24 for 2024 or just a few books that you're interested in getting to this year, and I'll catch y'all in the next video.